When people say things like, I do, most add the till death do us part in the end. However, when it comes to Hollywood, it's more likely to be till I fall in love with my co-star in my next movie. It's not an unknown fact that marriages in the glitzy world of celebrities and fame don't particularly last very long. Whether it's the pressures that come with a life in the public eye, the constant traveling and being away from their significant other, or the long hours on set, Hollywood marriages have gotten themselves a reputation of having a pretty poor shelf life. For fans, the most painful thing to watch is when their beloved celebrity couples split because they've fallen in love with someone else on set. Don't forget to take a second to subscribe to Rumour Juice and give the notification bell a click too, so you can be the first to know when we upload new content. Daredevil. You might not remember this, but Batman was not Ben Affleck's first stint as a superhero. In 2003, he joined the Marvel Universe as Daredevil alongside Jennifer Garner. Unfortunately, it was a flop at the box office and received ratings that were almost pitiful. However, it was successful at one thing, and that was tearing apart an engagement and a marriage. At the time, Ben was engaged to the gorgeous Jennifer Lopez, while Garner was married to Scott Foley. Funny coincidence, right? Two Jennifers. Yeah, we think that's a bit of an interesting one. We'll stick to surnames so that we don't get anyone confused here. While filming Daredevil, Affleck and Garner fell for one another, and they fell hard too. So all that chemistry you see in the movie, that's all real. After that, Affleck called off his engagement to Lopez, and Garner filed for divorce from her husband, Foley. We met on Pearl Harbor, which people hate, but we fell in love on Daredevil, Affleck admitted in an interview later, which is pretty scandalous because he was still with Lopez at the time. No one could have imagined how the singer must have felt, knowing that while she was engaged to a man that she loved and was supposed to marry, he was busy falling in love with another Jennifer. After appearing together on the TV show Dinner for Five for an interview, sparks flew again between Affleck and Garner, sharing long looks of adoration between one another. Their connection was undeniable, and it was pretty clear that there was something going on between the two actors.
Watch what happens later in the convo when Kevin Smith starts making fun of Affleck.
I feel like I might have to kick your ass.
There we go. You don't want her to kick your...
A few months later, Garner announced her divorce from Foley. When asked to comment, all she had to say was, "We didn't have a shot. He's a really good guy, and we just imploded." Then, just a year after that, Affleck and Lopez called off their engagement, which shattered the hearts of fans all over the world. But no one could have been more heartbroken than Lopez, who said, "I was eviscerated. I lost my sense of self, questioned if I belonged in the business, thought maybe I did suck at everything." In October 2004, the Lovebirds were seen as a couple for the first time at the World Series, where the Boston Red Sox were playing, and they were engaged just a few months later.
I love you guys, and I want to thank my wife, who's the reason I'm standing here. I adore you. I love you so much. Thanks for sitting through this.
While Ben didn't live happily ever after with his new Jennifer, and they divorced in 2018, the couple had 3 beautiful children during their marriage, and have been amicable co-parents since their split. Titanic. Everyone remembers the romance between Jack and Rose, and the tragedy behind the fact that it's been proven that there was indeed enough space for Jack on the floating door.
With all we've learned, I think Jack's death was needless.
So, what can be more heartbreaking? Knowing that Jack and Rose could have had a happily ever after, or that there was a real marriage that fell apart behind the scenes of the film. Director of the film, James Cameron, is known for his drive and ambition to succeed in the world of Hollywood. While he was working on Titanic, he was married to his 4th wife, Linda Hamilton. However, the long hours on set, along with his obsession with creating one of the best movies of all time, added a lot of strain to his marriage. Cameron began an affair with actress Susie Amos, who played the role of Rose's granddaughter. The affair continued even after the production of the film was completed. It's alleged that his wife, Linda, knew of the affair and the derailment of her marriage, but because of the huge amount of publicity and media surrounding Titanic, she didn't want to create any negative press. So, when she walked down the red carpet next to James, held his hand and clapped for him when he won the Oscar, she knew that he was in love with someone else and would probably be leaving her. James and Linda divorced soon after, and less than a year after the divorce, he went on to marry Susie. They're still married to this day, so even though Rose and Jack didn't get to have their chance, at least the heart really does go on for James and Susie.
There was a sort of present-day little burgeoning romance between, his character and Susie Amos's character. I cut it all out, and Susie must have forgiven me because we did get married, and we're still very happy together.
Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Sir Kenneth Branagh, or as you might remember him as Professor Lockhart, and Emma Thompson were a UK film power couple in the 1990s. They were married for 5 years and seemingly going strong, or at least they were until Kenneth met Helena Bonham Carter. Kenneth met Helena on the set of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and he couldn't deny his attraction to his co-star, to the extent that he put his marriage on the line when they had an affair during the making of the film. Thompson promptly divorced Branagh after news of the affair came to light. However, Thompson is not the type of woman to hold grudges and has since moved on from the painful and public ordeal. You can't hold on to anything like that. I just think, it's pointless. I haven't got the energy for it. Helena and I made our peace years and years ago. House of Wax. Do you know what's hot? Melted wax. Want to know what's even hotter? Chad Michael Murray in the 2000s. Chad was married to Sophia Bush, his previous co-star from the hit TV show One Tree Hill. However, while on set of the horror film House of Wax, Chad and his newer co-star Paris Hilton seemed to hit it off behind the scenes when nobody was looking. Paris was also seeing Nick Carter at the time, so her romance with Chad was more like a secret affair. Needless to say, Chad and Sophia's marriage quickly came to an end soon after the news of the affair spread, and things with Nick and Paris didn't last either. By the Sea. Everyone knows how Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie got together. The romance of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the heartbreak that Jennifer Aniston had to endure. Everyone knows that story, so we don't need to rehash all of that. The story you might not know of is about the film that led to the end of Brangelina. By the Sea, written and directed by Jolie, stars her and Pitt as a married couple who are experiencing a tough time during their relationship and endure an intense series of arguments that test their love for one another.
Everybody knows that there is never just the tragedy of life or the humor of life or pure joy of life. Relationships have those extremes. You can absolutely madly love the same person you want to kill.
Jolie knew making this movie would test her own marriage to Pitt. Unfortunately, they wound up failing the test and getting divorced soon after. Eyes Wide Shut. For his last movie, Eyes Wide Shut, the legendary filmmaker Stanley Kubrick chose Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, the it couple of the moment, as his main characters. Cruise and Kidman played a bored couple prone to arguing and eventually finding ways to experiment to make their marriage work. Everything about the shoot was controversial and hounded by the tabloids, from its explicit content to the obsession that surrounded Tom and Nicole's marriage. The pressure of filming, which lasted around 15 months, coupled with Kubrick's unexpected death, became too much for the pair, which led in part to their divorce 2 years later. Proof of Life. Meg Ryan and Dennis Quaid were seemingly riding the high of their romance and their careers until it all quickly came crashing down. The couple divorced over 20 years ago, but it's only now that Meg has decided to set the record straight on their split and make sure that everyone knows the real story. In early 2000, rumors that the pair's marriage was on the rocks were starting to spread. At the time, the press knew almost nothing of what was really going on behind Meg and Dennis's closed doors. It wasn't until Ryan was spotted with her Proof of Life co-star, Russell Crowe, cozying up with one another off set that the public put two and two together. If the married couple was going through a rough patch and Meg was seemingly canoodling with another man, then she must have been having an affair. Soon, the news of the pair's divorce was announced, which sent Hollywood into shambles. It seemed that Meg and Russell weren't meant to last, since they called it quits just a few months later. Friends close to the pair at the time said that Russell was very serious about Meg and wanted to marry her, but she hadn't had enough time to heal the wounds her divorce had left behind.
I didn't leave my marriage for Russell Crowe. I left my marriage.
Because your marriage wasn't working.
My marriage was not working.
Yeah.
When it comes to marriages in Hollywood, they're unconventional and sometimes don't make sense to those who aren't living the life of a celebrity. They do their best just like anyone else would, because although their lives are put on display, unlike many others, they're human just like the rest of us. And all everyone wants is to live their happily ever after.